Today we're going to do a tap on archetypes. And so generally the way that we navigate our lives is that we feel comfortable in a couple archetypes that we spend the most of our time in. So for example, maybe for me personally, it might be the people pleaser or the good girl, or sometimes if you get a little shadowy, maybe the sexual manipulator. And so I've spent a lot of time in different roles of my life. And when it comes to the evolution of this being, of you, there is an archetype that we get to step into that is our next level. It feels uncomfortable. There tends to be a lot of resistance. It's where we're headed. We know that that's the direction to go in, and yet it's terrifying. So for example, maybe it's, what are some examples of what you might be stepping into? Potentially the leader, or maybe like the vulnerable heart-led leader, or the organizer. So maybe actually like bringing people together, the community leader, the community organizer. Potentially it could just be something of your own life that's a little bit more simple. So maybe the neat freak or what else could it be? Whatever new identity that you would like to take on, maybe the embodied pleasure priestess, whatever that archetype is, go ahead and feel into what you'd like your future self to look like. So we're going to choose an archetype that you're either on the path of becoming or feels like a little bit out of reach. Okay. So dropping down from the collarbones to the chest, and start to feel around, massaging your chest to see if there's a sore spot. And repeating after me, changing the words as needed to fit your own situation. And feel free to pause this video at any time to give yourself some extra processing time on a specific topic. Okay, repeating after me. Even though there is a part of me that really wants to become, and go ahead and say your archetype that you're stepping into. I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tapping the eyebrows. There is a part of me that is afraid of stepping into this new role. Tapping the temples. There is a part of me that's really afraid of stepping into this new role, this new archetype. Tapping the cheeks. There's a part of me that knows that I can become this. Tapping under the nose. And there's another part of me that is really afraid and resistant. Tapping the chin. There's a part of me that doesn't want to even acknowledge that this is part of my path. Tapping all over the chest. I feel afraid. So what are you most afraid of in stepping into this archetype? What feels the most scary, the most intimidating around stepping into it? Tapping the front of the ribs. I'm most afraid of, and explaining what you're afraid of. Tapping the sides of the ribs. I feel really afraid that tapping the inside of the wrist. I acknowledge that I feel afraid, and that's okay. Tapping the side of the thumb. And so where do you feel this fear in your body? Taking a couple deep breaths. And bringing your awareness deep into your body. Noticing where that fear is living right now. Tapping the index finger. I feel this fear in my, and say that body part. Tapping the middle finger. I feel this fear in my, tapping the underside of the ring finger. I acknowledge this fear in my, and even with this fear, I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Tapping the pinky. There's a part of me that's really afraid of this. And go ahead and say what you're afraid of again. I'm afraid that, tapping the side of the hand. Tapping all over the head. I feel really afraid that, I understand why I feel afraid. There is a part of me that doesn't want to feel this way. Tapping the eyebrows. And I'm open to loving and accepting myself. Big deep breath. Tapping the temples. I feel really afraid that, and let's feel into that archetype again. I am stepping into, and say your archetype. Tapping under the nose. And what are some of the if, ands, or buts? So why is that archetype not realistic, not possible, something that you're afraid of, something that you're no to, seems too far away? Tapping the chin. For the next minute, go ahead and say all the reasons of why you are not that archetype, why it's inaccessible, why it's too far away. What might happen if you become that? Tapping all over the chest. It's possible that these might happen. I don't want them to happen, but they might. Tapping the front of the ribs. It's possible that these might happen, no matter how terrible they might be. And I'm open to loving and accepting myself. 3 big deep breaths. Tapping the sides of the ribs. Another big deep breath. So out of all the if, ands, or buts, all the reasons why you shouldn't become this archetype, which one feels the most charged? What's most here for you? Tapping the inside of the wrist. There's a part of me that's really afraid that, and go ahead and say what you've been talking about. Tapping the side of the thumb. And what might happen? if this happens? Tapping the index finger. And then what would happen if that happens? Tapping the middle finger. And then what would happen? Tapping the underside of the ring finger. I'm open to the possibility that it might not be as bad as I imagine. Or if that's not true, yeah, this could be absolutely terrible. This could be my worst nightmare come true. Tapping the pinky. And I'm open to loving and accepting myself. There's a part of me that's really afraid. I'm really afraid of this happening. Tapping the side of the hand. And I'm open to loving and accepting myself with this fear. Tapping the head. This all could happen. And I feel paralyzed. I feel overwhelmed. I feel terrified. I don't know if I can go through with this. I'd rather just stay exactly how I am right now. Tapping the eyebrows. I give myself full permission to stay exactly how I am. Tapping the temples. I don't have to change anything. Tapping the cheeks. I give myself full permission to stay exactly as I am. Tapping under the nose. I don't ever need to become and saying your archetype. Tapping the chin. I give myself permission to let this go. Big, deep breath. And actually giving yourself permission to let this go. Tapping the chest. I don't have to do this. There is a part of me that wants to do this. Tapping the front of the ribs. There's a part of me that wants to step into this identity. There's a part of me that wants to become this archetype of, and say your archetype. Tapping the sides of the ribs. And there's another part of me that's feeling really scared. Okay, so what's another reason of why you don't want to go there? Why you don't want to take that next step? Why becoming that new you is really scary? Tapping the inside of the wrist. What might you lose? If you were to become this archetype, what would you need to let go of? Tapping the side of the thumb. What would I need to let go of if I became, and say your archetype? Tapping the index finger, and say that a couple more times. What would I need to let go of if I became this archetype? Tapping the middle. What would I need to let go of if I became this archetype? Tapping the underside of the ring finger. I don't know if I could let go of this. Tapping the pinky. Even thinking about letting go of this, I'm feeling, and what are you feeling right now? Sadness, grief, anger, guilt, shame, fear. Tapping the side of the hand. I feel really, and saying that emotion. And what is the story around this? So what are you most afraid of? What's the worst part of losing this? Mm-hmm. Tapping the head. Mm-hmm. I have compassion for myself. I understand why I feel this way. I am allowed to feel this way. It's okay. Tapping the eyebrows. There is a part of me that really doesn't want to lose this. Mm-hmm. Tapping the temples. I'd feel really, what's that emotion if I lost this? Tapping the cheeks. And for just a minute, we're going to imagine that this happens, that we lose this thing. So I'd like you to picture in your mind you losing it for just a moment. Tapping under the nose. I feel really, what's that emotion that you're feeling? What's coming up for you? Tapping the chin. Big, deep breath. Tapping the chest. I feel really, tapping the front of the ribs. I give myself permission to feel this fully. And if you're starting to lose the emotion, go ahead and imagine that you're losing it again. Tapping the sides of the ribs. I'm open to loving and accepting myself even with this loss. No matter how painful it is, I give myself permission to feel this now. Tapping the inside of the wrist. I'm creating more space for myself so I can do what's true. I love and accept myself with this remaining emotion around this loss. Let's take 3 big deep breaths. And softening the body just a little bit. One more big deep breath, tapping the thumb. I acknowledge any remaining, and go ahead and say that emotion one more time. Tapping the index finger. It's okay. It's okay that I feel this way. I'm open to accepting any remaining emotion now. Tapping the middle finger. I am releasing this emotion now. I am releasing any remaining fear. Tapping the underside of the ring finger. I am releasing any remaining sadness or grief. Tapping the top side of the pinky. I am releasing any remaining shame or guilt about what I'm supposed to do. Tapping the side of the hand. I'm releasing any remaining anger or blame now. Big, deep breath. One more, sighing it out and allowing your body to release. It is safe for me to let this go. And so that the mind feels comfortable. From an intellectual standpoint, I'm going to explain something to you here. That essentially what we're doing is we're releasing attachment to the thing that you're afraid of losing. So in feeling the emotions around that, go ahead and tap your chest. In feeling the emotions around that, we are letting go of the attachment to create more space for that thing to stay in your life, or for you to actually take the correct action to become the person that you're meant to be. And so it's not actually losing that thing or that person. It's more creating more space for what's true and for clarity to come through. So even though it feels like you may be actually losing, it's actually creating more spaciousness. And this is the practice of non-attachment or releasing attachment. So basically pre-processing the loss. So it may not actually need to happen at all. Okay, tapping the head, big deep breath. I am stepping into this new archetype of, and go ahead and say that archetype that you're stepping into. And for the next minute, go ahead and explain, what is that archetype like? What does being that person look like? What does it feel like? How do they navigate through this world? What would you be if what would you show up like? How would you feel? Describe yourself as this person. Tapping the eyebrows. And what would your character be like? What would your integrity be like? Would you be open to having those conversations? How would you show up? Tapping the temples. And what would you be doing? How would your life be different if you were this person? Tapping the cheeks. And how does this person feel? What are they feeling in their body? Go ahead and describe what this archetype would be feeling. Tapping under the nose. Tapping the chin. And all over the chest. And so, in feeling all of that, taking one more big deep breath into all that yumminess of this archetype. I'm open to the possibility that I can become this. Tapping the front of the ribs. I'm open to the possibility that this is possible for me. Tapping the sides of the ribs. It feels true for me to become this. This is my next step. Tapping the inside of the wrist. I know that I can step into this. Tapping the side of the thumb. I give myself permission to feel confident in who I am and who I'm becoming. Tapping the index finger. It's possible. I don't need to force this at all. Tapping the middle finger. This is a natural part of my evolution. Tapping the underside of the ring finger. I give myself permission to release any remaining fears around becoming this person now. Big, deep breath. Tapping the pinky. I am releasing any remaining fears around becoming this now. Tapping the side of the hand. And what is one more fear that you're like, ooh, like that one thing, like that feels really scary if I were to step into this? I'm most afraid of tapping the head. I acknowledge this fear of, what are you afraid of? Tapping the eyebrows. I acknowledge this fear now. Tapping the temples. And what is this fear trying to protect you from? What is it trying to bring your awareness to? How is this fear serving you right now? Tapping the cheeks. And ask yourself, is this fear actually serving me? Is it working? Or is your fear actually causing what it's trying to protect you from? Tapping into the nose. I'm open to listening to my fear. Thank you, fear, for letting me know. Tapping the chin. Thank you, fear, for trying to protect me and to make things go the way I think they should. Tapping the chest. Thank you, fear. Thank you for your input. Big deep breath. I'm open to the possibility of releasing this fear now. Tapping the front of the ribs. I'm open to the possibility that I can do it, that I can figure it out. I'm open to releasing this fear fully now. Big, deep breath. Tapping the sides of the ribs. I acknowledge any remaining fear now. And giving yourself permission to actually feel the fear in your body, any remaining contraction, constriction in the body, and taking 3 big, deep breaths into that constriction not needing to fix or change it, just observing. Tapping the inside of the wrist. Another big deep breath. And softening around that constriction, giving it a little more space. Relaxing the jaw. And softening the shoulders. Tapping the side of the thumb. I'm open to the possibility that becoming, and go ahead and say your archetype, could be more fun and easier than I could ever imagine. Tapping the index finger. It's possible that I am ready to become this new version of me. Tapping the middle finger. I am open to the possibility that I can do this. Tapping the underside of the ring finger. I can do this. I am becoming this new version of me. Tapping the pinky finger. I am already becoming this new version of me. Tapping the side of the hand. I am stepping into this new version now. I am becoming, and say your archetype. Tapping the head. I'm open to the possibility that this could be way more natural than I could ever imagine. It's possible that I am ready to become this. Tapping the eyebrows. This gets to be way easier and more fun than I could ever imagine. Tapping the temples. I give myself permission to practice becoming this new version of me. I get to test it out where it feels comfortable and safe to start. Tapping the cheeks until it feels normal and natural to me. I give myself permission to tap through any remaining fears, any remaining blocks. Tapping under the nose. I am ready to become this new version of me. Tapping the chin. And go ahead and say your name and the archetype that you're stepping into. For example, it'd be Tracy, the empowered leader. I am becoming, say your name and your title, your archetype. Tapping the chest. I am becoming, say your name and the archetype again. Tapping the front of the ribs. And one more time, I am becoming, sides of the ribs. This gets to be surprisingly fun and enjoyable. I am on this journey of becoming me. Tapping the inside of the wrist. I am on the journey of self-actualization. And I'm open to the possibility of receiving any support that I need. Tapping the side of the thumb. I give myself permission to tap on this until I feel confident within myself. Tapping the index finger. I am becoming, and go ahead and say your archetype again. Tapping the middle finger. I am becoming, and say that archetype again. Tapping the underside of the ring finger. And feeling into how it feels to be that archetype. So allowing yourself to feel confident, loving, open, empowered, turned on, sensual, whatever that archetype is feeling, welcoming it into your body now. Tapping the pinky. And taking 3 big deep breaths into those feelings of what this new archetype feels like, this new version of you. How are they sitting? How are they moving? What does it feel like to be in that body? Tapping the side of the hand. Tapping all over the head. I am becoming this now. This is my new normal. I am bringing this feeling, these feelings into every single cell of my body now. Big, deep breath. Tapping the eyebrows. I welcome the evolution of my soul. Tapping the temples. I embrace this change. I embrace this change with courage and grace. Tapping the cheeks. I can do this. I am doing this. Tapping under the nose. I am becoming, and say that archetype again. Tapping the chin. I am becoming. And tapping all over the body. Hello, and say your name in this new archetype. I'm doing it. I am becoming. And I am so proud of myself. Taking a deep breath. And how are you feeling now? Noticing in your body what you're experiencing, how you feel. And feel free to write in the comments what you experienced on this session today. Have a beautiful day and keep tapping.